things we have scheduled for the channel for today. So this is it. Get it while it's hot. And right away we have a route divergence. Anthole going to Cutman, Hypa going to Gutsman. The reason why you go to Cutman is because you're going to do a zip in Electman and grab the Magnet Beam without the use of Gutsman's weapon to clear the way. Why do you want the Magnet Beam? Well, it speeds everything up like crazy. But if you're uncomfortable doing that zip, and there's good reason to be uncomfortable doing it, because you can totally soft block yourself and end up in mega jail if you screw it up. Then Gutsman is a very safe backup strat that does not cost you too much time. Anthole making really good use of the select glitch to get through the early sections of Cutman stage. Basically, it cancels out Mega Man's knockback, tapping it off and on. Hype is the first to reach the boss room. He's really low on health because he got hit by that Stomper enemy. He was using the select glitch a little bit with just Buster Shots, so that he doesn't have to deal with dodging Gutsman's annoying attacks. Does a fantastic job of dodging, though. Gets him down without even taking a single hit. See what kind of Cutman fight Anthole can come up with. A lot of players like to take damage boosts so that they can make sure they're able to get their shots inside Cutman's hitbox in time to keep him in those iframes. But when you're as low on life as Anthole was, not an option. So he has to jump over those projectiles, and he does a great job of doing so. Staying alive, getting Cutman down, heading to Electman stage as Hypa on his tail. Well, I guess technically Hypa could be considered in the lead. We'll see what happens once these two routes meet back up. Which admittedly won't be for a while. So we'll just have to imagine. Hypa not using that select glitch. Although, to be fair, I don't think he fully expected to get hit there. Yeah, he is using it. He just did not react to that situation in time. The select button, not an easy button to hit. It's way over there on the controller. So if you're ready for it, you can get your thumb over there, or however you hold your controller. But if you're not, it's very hard to react in time. A long fall for Anthole. Oh my gosh. Looking kind of stunned there even when he hit the bottom. That really just happened. He is definitely behind at this point. Though his opponent is pretty low on health. Is he farming health here? No. Alright. Cutman fight. Ooh, he misses the second shot. And takes a blade to the face for it, but he's able to recover. And by miss, I mean he misses the select glitch. But he is able to turn around and throw that second block in his face. Obliterates him. And jumps out to an early lead here. As he is now just 4 or 5 screens away from anthole on Electman stage with a whole Robot Master defeated. We got a zip here from anthole. He has to do this. Because he does not have Gutsman's weapon, and he does not end up trapped in the Magnet Beam room. That is the Mega Jail. I suppose Magnet Jail would maybe make as much sense. It's not a particularly Mega Jail, to be honest. Unless it's a jail for mega people, in which case, there you go, that'd work. But he's got the Magnet Beam, he's moving on. As you can see, the ability to make your own platforms in a platformer game is quite useful. You can see it put to spectacular use for a couple zips later on. But honestly, I find it even more useful on this vertical climb section here, where anthole is. There's Hypa grabbing the beam the traditional way, using Gutsman's weapon to clear the way. Anthole not using the Magnet Beam to make this climb faster. It's a pretty difficult set of jumps you need to do. Though there is a safer, slower version you can do that anthole is not even opting to try for. Not quite close enough to Electman to clip him with that second shot. But Electman is absolutely dead, so he is going to move on out of Electman's stage, trying desperately to stay ahead of Hypa, who is threatening to lap him by a Robot Master at this point. Making use of the Magnet Beam to avoid dipping into the water as Hypa gets fried by Electman. Just chucks that electricity right in his face. He's going to have to climb back up here as anthole is trying to get the right height he needs to skip this Yoku block section. Takes 3 tries at it, doesn't get it, and says, I don't want to waste my Magnet Beam here trying to make this happen. As a backup strat, he's going to keep going and hold on to it. Like so. You absolutely want to have some of it to get you through this next section. Hypa, of course, has a perfect Electman fight second time around. Cursing his opportunity to make up ground. He's going to move on. anthole makes it safely to the middle of the stage, though it takes a scary hit there a couple times, but he's through. Very important to not fall there. You run out of Magnet Beam ammo, you can't cross that gap with the Magnet Beam, you're stuck playing with the turrets, and the turrets are... they're awful. They're kind of disgustingly awful. They move randomly, they shoot, and if you get hit, you're very likely to just fall straight through them rather than land on top of them. Under no circumstances do you ever want to have to jump on those things without the Magnet Beam. Hypa getting the pixel he needs here. And there's the wrap. He's going to be saving a big chunk of time as anthole finishes off Iceman. Very simple fight. He's not even going to get the refill. Let's hope he's planned out his usage. He does. He has just enough to get across. Not enough to go for one last screen wrap, but this one much, much less important than the previous one. Let's see what anthole can do in Fireman stage here, trying to set up the zip. He likes the height. Or does he? I couldn't tell if he just couldn't quite get on there. So he's got it this time. And now Iceman is down for Hypa. Anthole struggling to get up top here. He definitely wants this Magna Beam ammo. See if he can get this mini zip here. There it is. Zoop. Hypa also trying to set up a zip here. Too low, too high. And he is not giving up on it. He is going to the ladder to find the exact pixel that he needs. And now he's zipped all the way over. Anthole has enough Magna Beam for one try at this big zip here. This one is kind of dangerous, but he doesn't get it and does not have enough for a second try. So he's going to be moving on. Ooh, fires that elect shot when he really doesn't need to. Electman's weapon lags the game horribly. Even with nothing else on screen, there's just way too many sprites going on in Electman's super involved animation. So anthole is switching to Iceman to freeze the turrets. And of course to fight the boss as Hypa sets up for his own zip. He needs to make sure he times it correctly, and he does not jump up in time. He dodged the enemies, it looked like. Oh, anthole does not want to get hit with this fire attack, so he is going all out with the select spam, and another death for Hypa. And that's going to be a game over. So just like that, anthole defeats his 4th Robot Master, and Hypa dies trying to defeat his 5th. So these guys are neck and neck. Anthole going into bomb, Hypa making his way through fire once again. Anthole using the select glitch on these really annoying bomb enemies. Their placement is incredibly hard to dodge. Any attempt to do so will lose you quite a bit more time than the select glitch and damage boost through strategy. Hypa's setting up for this zip one more time. He's got the right height. Oh, he did not shoot a beam to the left. That is a necessary part of that zip. So he's going to eat another death. And he is dangerously low on Magna Beam. He's going to use one to get across this gap. And then he is out. Thankfully, refills respawn in Mega Man 1. But there are none between him and the zip he wants to use that ammo for. So he's going to have to do things legit here. Whereas anthole has the ammo he needs to do his zip, going to the ladder to get the pixel he needs. Beam to the left, don't over zip. Anthole nails it. Anthole letting Bomb Man get away from him a little bit. not the cleanest fight, but he does his best to stay on top of the bad situation. Gets that wrapped up and maintains his lead over Hypa, who is coming into the Fireman fight now. You really want to have clean select presses on Fireman, because he will dish out a ton of damage in a hurry. Hypa ends the fight pretty low on health, but he does end the fight. Anthole is in Gutsman stage. This is why you want to come here last if you can do the zip using these magnet beams in Gutsman stage. Just skip these platform sections. And having a hell of a time with this turret enemy. Just has this goofy grin on his face. He is wasting your time and ruining your speedrun, and he loves it. What a jerk. Anthole is now half health, about halfway through Gutsman stage here. Thankfully, you also have Gutsman's weakness. You do not have to deal with that boss fight. Assuming you are able to get your select presses in line, because if you don't make the most of your one free Hyper Bomb shot, you have to try to hit him again with Hyper Bomb. And that's maybe the worst thing. Hyper Bomb is an absolutely horrible weapon. And trying to track down a boss with it, even one as slow as Gutsman, is not fun. So there it is. The bomb's out. He's taken one hit, and Gutsman is armed himself with another rock immediately. So he needs to nail the select presses, and he does. So Gutsman is down. And Hypa respawning at the checkpoint, I can only assume that means a death. And judging by his ammo, I'm guessing he went for the zip and it did not go well. He does have one beam here to get him across some of these spikes. We'll see what he does through this section. Is the Sniper Joe gonna get stuck in the wall? Yes, he is. I like seeing that. So Hypa is falling into Bomb Man's room. Anthole is making his way through Flashman and Mega Man 2. Solid Bomb Man fight. Fully expect him to also go to Flashman stage here. And I would peg both players as a heat second sort of route. A route taker. But I've been proven wrong in the past, so we'll see. But now that these routes have converged, we can see here that Anthole about 3/4 of a stage ahead of his opponent, Hypa, moving into the boss fight. Doing a pretty good job of keeping Flashman in iframes early on, and then he takes a hit, lets him get away a little bit. But overall, a decent fight. He's teleporting out as Hypa's dropping in. Now we get to enjoy this incredible cutscene. The item get cutscenes in Mega Man 2 are kind of horribly long. Almost laughably so. It's the reason why, despite being at a higher difficulty, Rockman 2 is what some people choose to play on, that Japanese text speeding up the weapon get cutscenes so much that it's worth dealing with enemies having almost double health. Also, I think earlier I said I pegged both players as going heat second, and I meant to say air second. That is the safer, consistent route. Heat second is very risky. But anthole proving me right / wrong by actually going to heat second. So he is going for the very risky air third route, unless he's doing some kind of crazy air last route. Hypa as well, going to heat second. So these guys both fixing for some fast air. Could easily be a turning point in this race that is otherwise quite close. Hypa going for that item 3 throw, not quite getting it. It's a very, very difficult trick. I didn't think it was possible to overthrow it, but I have seen that twice now in the tournament. It was just that hard to line it up, I thought. That there was, you either get it or you're short. I didn't think there was any way to possibly miss it by going too far. So we have a Heatman fight from anthole, who's making sure to keep his distance. Ooh, getting tripped up a little bit by Heatman's random antics. Will charge you after 30, 60, or 90 frames of waiting, and it is totally random. And he does a lot of damage, so anthole does not want to be close. Oh, am I going robot a little bit? I'm not sure there's much I can do to fix that. Unfortunately. So it's robot or nothing. Anthole does not get hit by Heatman, who does a ton of damage with his charge attacks. We'll see if Hypa can do the same. Takes one hit there. Would much rather save that health for a final hit, and misses a shot there as well, so he is going to have to hit him through the Heatman's actual attacks. But in the end, it's no problem. Both players down, with Heatman moving on to air. Hypa, of course, one very long cutscene away. As anthole flashes the drills. And he pulls out that item 1. We'll see if he can make it happen here. Going for a despawn on this first Lightning Lord and not getting it, and that is... Where is he? He's dead. On my commentator view, that 30 frames per second totally hid anthole from me. But I could tell that things were not going well because the screen was not scrolling. Anthole actually getting a corner jump there. Also despawning some of these drills. So nice job to stay ahead of Hypa, who is now right behind him. Anthole low on item 1s. He's going to have to come up with some kind of hybrid strat to get through here. Choosing to wait and take a ton of damage as Hypa also takes a death in this section. This is why I did not think these players were going to go for this strategy, but they did, and they have to deal with it. Anthole, he made a valiant effort trying to get out of that situation. And just like Hypa did, anthole is going to take a death to refill his weapon energy. This is the right move at this point, because we saw just how hard it is to adapt to a hybrid strategy using the item 1s, but not having the energy you need to do the desired strat. So there's Hypa, does not get damage boosted the right way, so he aborts. And what is he going to do now? He's going to go straight to that other cloud, and he's going to be able to continue this trick, this sequence of jumps, except he dies along with anthole. So Hypa, I know at this point, does not have enough energy to try that strategy again. Anthole, I was gonna say did, but now he's using a lot of his platforms just to get over these drills. I expect him to switch back to Buster here. He is. So after all the shenanigans, both players are going to be riding the platforms, playing it safe. And oh, Hypa, the Lightning Lord, just says no, throwing that lightning bolt in his face the moment he goes to jump across. And he's like, well, I've only got one life left. Might as well eat a death here, go for the refill, and once again go for fast air. So he has got to be feeling understandably shaky about his ability to perform that trick at this point. But now he needs it to catch up because Anthole is done. Not a good start there, already turning back and getting hit by a drill. Getting the despawn he wants. Getting to that platform. And then damage boosting to the right. Off of the platform. How does he deal with the situation now? Very low on item 1. Going for these corner jumps and getting them. And now he's despawning the drills. Hypa not being so good at this cloud section, but seems very, very comfortable with that drill section beforehand. As Anthole moves into a boss fight, he's got plenty of health. He's playing on Mega Man 2, not Rockman 2. So Airman is dead. Super fast there. Nice job from him. Maintaining his lead over Hypa. As things got really dicey in Airman stage for both these players, he is going to be the one to emerge from that cluster of deaths and game overs in the lead. Hypa's got his item 1s out. And back to Buster. Just needs to avoid one of these birds dropping an egg on him. Ooh, going for it there. If he did not shoot that egg over that gap, he was toast. I can't tell if he's playing on tilt or if he's brave for not being forced into playing safe after those mistakes. Hard to say, but he is going for it, that's for sure. Anthole moving into Crashman as Hypa goes to clean up. Airman himself not quite getting a good pattern, but doing a good job to sneak that last shot in over the tornado. Anthole lining up the zip for Crashman stage. The platform just getting high enough to get him far enough into the ceiling to initiate the B-trigger zip. Switching to Heatman's weapon and charging it, because for some reason that sound effect cancels the any sounds associated with Mega Man's death. And when Mega Man's respawn, his actually respawning, seems to be tied to that sound effect. So by canceling the sound effect, you cancel any delay for Mega Man's respawn. And so even though you're menuing to a weapon exclusively just for that one use, if you can menu cleanly and quickly, it is actually a little bit faster. Anthole successfully done the crash zip that Hypa is attempting to set up now. He gets it. And we'll see what kind of climb Anthole can come up with here, switching to the item 3s. Grabbing that ladder nice and high off screen, setting himself up for an item 3 placement on the next screen, but then misses his opportunity. Also, he is facing the wrong way, so these birds are coming in from the left, dropping their eggs, and giving him some trouble. Not going for this last item 3 placement, at the top of the screen before last. It's pretty tricky, but it does come with the bonus of being able to squeeze under that plunger enemy without stopping. Hypa falling on his crash climb. Not the way you want to start that out. Manages to get that item 3 out. So he falls on top of it instead of down once again. He's got these birds spawning from the right, which is what you want to see. You do that by grabbing the ladder, I believe, facing left. It does get flipped around. Basically, Mega Man turns the opposite way when you grab a ladder. So you do have to keep in mind which way you're facing before you grab the ladder and make sure that's correct to get those birds spawning the way you need them to. Crashman is down for Anthole. See if Hypa can follow suit. There it is. No problem. Anthole moving on to Quickman stage. Grabbing that extra life. I honestly did not keep track of what everyone's life situation is. I think Anthole died once to Airman on this continue. And I think Hypa died at least once, maybe twice. Either way, after the Crashman death, yeah, actually, it would have had to be once. If it was twice, he would have died in Crashman stage, and that would have been sad. So he also wants an extra life to do the wood zip. So he grabs it. Anthole into the quick beam section. Hypa still has his item 1s out. We'll see if he's going to do the zip. He's setting up for it. That item 1 placement is a little off. Needs to be further to the left. That one looks good. This is going to be a big opportunity for him to catch up if he can pull this off. Anthole switching to Airman's weapon to deal with these stompers. They do a lot of damage. And he's pretty low on life. Getting through Quickman without getting hit at all is incredibly difficult. And if he did take that hit, that's a situation he would have been in. Now he can take a hit or two. And of course, gets the best pattern he needs. Takes 0 hits. Feeds those crash bombs to Quickman. Point blank. Hypa going for the gate crash zip as well. Misses the setup and decides, nope, not gonna try again. Incredibly risky zip. If you overzip, you soft lock the game and must continue from a password. That would put an end to his dream of catching up to Anthole within Mega Man 2 here. Wow, Quickman. Giving Hypa the slip there. Anthole's item 1 a little bit too far left, does not give himself enough room to get onto the edge and into the wall. Second time's the charm. Anthole is moving on through Metal Man stage as Hypa enters as well. Going to metal before wood is advised. If you miss the good wood zip, your best option is to proceed through the stage. And if you do that, you're going to want metal blades to throw at all of the various woodland creatures in your way. Hypa also having trouble. Is that one good? It is. You want that one in the middle of the rising platform. Ooh, a very strange death from Hypa there. Don't think I've ever seen anyone fall in between those platforms like that. So he is going to opt for a quick game over. Wants an extra life for Woodman stage. Or perhaps he just wants some of the item 1 energy back. Anthole letting Quickman actually start moving. If you do that fight right, you don't have to worry about that. But he does a good job of cleaning up the fight. So Metal Man is down, as Hypa is having all sorts of trouble setting up this zip again. Finally gets it. Anthole hesitating on the Robot Master screen is gonna go to Wood. You don't really use Woodman's weapon in Bubble Man stage or vice versa, so you're free to do them as you wish. It's simply a question of, for the Robot Masters tournament anyway, of which boss fight you want to end the run in. Bubble Man has a bit of extra lag in his stage, so you do want to end there if you can. Anthole, perhaps wanting an extra life before starting Woodman stage? Not sure. Either way, he gets an extra life early on in the stage here. So he is for sure able to do this zip if he wants, but he's already pulled out the Metal Blade, so I can tell he is indeed going to be skipping the good wood zip. After some of those shenanigans that happened in Airman stage, I wouldn't be surprised if he knew that zip and is just opting not to mess around with it today. Hypa opening up with the item 2 on the first screen in Woodman stage. It is better used in the second half of Woodman stage if you are not doing the zip. So that leads me to believe we are going to see a good wood zip from Hypa. It would not be the first time he's made up major ground on his opponent due to utilizing one. Anthole has reached the boss corridor, and Hypa has reached the place to start the zip where he will appear in the boss corridor should he successfully get it. He started. We'll see how good this wood is as Anthole finishes off Woodman point blank with Heatman's weapon. I don't know what's happening there. Needs to hold shoot before he grabs the ladder. Wow, one pause zip to the ladder. That is pretty scary, but confident that he paused at the right time to extend his zip long enough to grab the ladder. There's the death. There's the respawn in the boss corridor, and Hypa is now one boss fight away from Anthole. Not to mention preserving the sanctity of the race by providing us with some good wood. So Anthole sticking with Buster to the beginning of Bubbleman stage and then switching to the item 2. You can switch to the item 2 right away and it is faster, but you need to be able to deal with those frogs. And they are very tricky. You might need to move back and forth or jump on your item 2 ride to avoid them, depending on how high or low you place it on your jump. And if you screw it up, you're probably going to get knocked off and die. So here's Hypa trying not to screw it up. He nails it. Looking swag as that third frog sends his projectiles too far and too short to hit him. No jump necessary. Anthole for going bubbles? No, not for going the bubbles. I got caught up watching how things would go with Hypa that did not see. Hypa is setting up for the bubble zip here. Thinks that platform is going to disappear a little early, but it would have been fine if he stayed on it. Gets it the second time around, switches to Metal Blades. As Anthole is in the boss corridor. Managed just to jump over that frog without killing it. Pretty tight jump. Most people tend to just throw Metal Blades at everything at this point. Bubble Man is down for Anthole as he starts switching games. Hypa is in the boss corridor. Anthole is going with Top Man first, despite where he's at skill level wise, and also particularly with this race not going so great. He is opting to choose the most difficult route, whereas Hypa is going for Gemini first. Also a difficult start. He's getting beat up real bad on this first screen of Gemini Man's stage, and this is not even the worst part of this stage. Although now he's doing a great job of shooting these turrets before they get their fire attack off, and sliding as much as he can on these surfaces. Gets the proto skip, but does not get the zip. Not a big deal, that zip. Very minor time savings, but it is a zip. Therefore, it looks cool and goes fast. Highly desirable in a Mega Man game. Anthole contending with the various Mets and Tops in this stage. We'll see what he does here. He's had a lot of trouble in big open areas with floating platforms, so he is going to play it safe on these tops as he gets into the boss fight. Hypa dealing with Gemini Man's stage. This section is the worst part, but he is sliding so much on these single tile blocks. Oh, there is the death from the mosquito. I was going to say he was actually getting the mosquitoes to despawn by getting them off screen just because he was going so fast. It was super impressive. And then the mosquitoes caught up to him. So he goes into the drink. He has to do this screen again. And he has to do it with lag now. So this is where he died. And that time he knows I'm not going to be able to cross this gap before that mosquito gets me, so he waits. He does get shot from below, but he's prepared for that by standing on the right side of the block to not get knocked off. So showing his ability to adapt there, staying cool in a bad situation, and getting through to the boss fight. As Anthole is done with his, and is moving on to Shadow Man stage. Pretty solid Gemini fight with the Buster from Hypa. Anthole dealing with Proto Man. Not the bestest of mashers. I know I'm not. Proto Man is 28 health, so your ability to mash those bullets into him can make a big difference. Anthole continuing through this light and dark section that is appropriate for a robot master named Shadow Man. What's not appropriate is he is a ninja-like enemy who seems to just throw grenades at you. I don't know why his stage has giant walking grenades. I don't know how it feels to be a giant walking grenade robot. Hopefully they're programmed without feelings. Anthole really low on life, goes for the jump over this scary, scary section, uses the top weapon to kill the parachute enemy, but doing so has this tendency to kick Mega Man back to the left. And when that happens, you cannot clear these really large gaps. So that's death for him. It's going to wait out the second one. This is kind of what you got to do if you end up in that situation. Oh, hoping that he can get on that platform before that parachute enemy collides with him. Not quite getting there. Another death for him as Hypa rockets through Needleman's stage with Gemini's weapon. Once I mark him off the Robot Master list, he is officially pulled into the lead with a very, very strong Needleman fight. Missing with Gemini's weapon in that situation is a very bad situation. It's so bad that it's been named after a player who had kind of had a tendency to do that quite a bit. The Nadua laser situation is definitely to be avoided. It creates a ton of lag, and you cannot fire again until that laser is done bouncing around the screen. Anthole does not have the health to keep trading here, and he gets tagged by Shadow Man's blades, and that is a game over. Very, very costly for him. Now an entire stage behind Hypa. And Mega Man 3 has not been kind to him. Hypa eating a bunch of damage on these electric enemies. In Sparkman stage. Anthole fighting Proto Man once again. You're far better off concentrating on manipulating your movement when fighting Proto Man. Staying behind him and matching the height of your jumps to his will end up with you dealing a lot more damage than doing your best to mash a little faster and getting out of sync with him. Hypa's into this room with these rising blocks. Fairly tricky. You need to know where you can slide and where you have to jump, because doing the wrong thing will usually mean a death. But Hypa knows he's through and he's into the Sparkman fight. Needle's a soft weakness for Spike Man. And he's got plenty of health, so he's able to just tank that fight. Getting up in his face. And sticking a needle in his eye. Sparkman is down. We have officially got more than a one Robot Master gap between these players. For I believe the first time. But there's a lot of Mega Man left to play, and both players have shown that they're capable of getting into some rough situations. So I do not think Hypa is about to run away with this. We'll have to wait and see as Anthole emerges from the Shadow Man fight with one tick of health. He really needed that to stay in this. Nice job from him. Hypa is going to Magnet next. And Anthole is going to Gemini. Gemini's still a scary stage for Anthole. The thing that really makes it better is having Magnet Man's weapon. So he has to make do with the Buster on this really annoying section. The Penguins have a lot of health. The fire turret enemies, quite hard to hit. As you can see, I don't think he's gotten like one slide off ever since the stage started. Whereas you want to be sliding over almost all of these pillars. Just a troublesome section. Hypa's into the Magnet Man fight. Sparkman's weapon takes care of him very quickly. As Anthole nails the Proto Skip. So we hear that oddly haunting Proto Man theme, followed by the even more haunting Nothing. The trigger to resume the music is skipped along with the cutscene for our benefit. The music in this game actually lags the game. And Gemini Man stage is actually additionally a very laggy stage. So getting rid of that music actually makes a really big difference. Grabbing a full health refill and 2 1-ups as Anthole slides through the last of the eggs. Choosing to damage boost off of a mosquito rather than this garbled penguin snake mess, and refilling his life before going into this troublesome section down below. We saw Hypa do a great job in this section, despite that death. Before that death, he was moving exceptionally well. Anthole is manipulating these mosquitoes to go high and just pausing to take that damage boost. Very safe, very consistent, and impressive in its own right. So he is through the scary stuff for Gemini Man stage. Definitely had to be thinking about it after that death in Shadow Man. Hypa has to deal with the Proto Man fight. In Hard Man stage, Anthole is going to be moving on to the Gemini fight. He's kind of low on life here. Needs to do a good job of dodging these shots, and he does. Takes one last hit. Whoa! God, he needed that one last hit on Gemini Man, and he does not find it, so that is a death for him. Luckily, Shadow Man's weapon has a ton of ammo, so he is going to be able to do this fight again without any problems. As Hypa deals with Hard Man, that is not a boss where you have a second try should you use all your ammo. You're forced to use your Buster, so it's a good thing that Hypa gets it right on the first try. Anthole gets Gemini down on the second try. And as I mark those bosses off, we can see that Hypa very clearly has a 2 robot master lead. The only level that both of them still need to complete is Snake. Hypa's going into top, Anthole goes into Needle. We can see how these 5 weapons that Hypa's collected can help in Top Man stage, whereas Anthole had to do this with the Buster. And vice versa. Anthole also has a Gemini laser, but he's going to switch off of it pretty quickly here in Needleman stage. Not comfortable with his ability to reliably hit these enemies. Another 1-up for him. I think he's sitting on 3 extra 1-ups now, despite that death. This Hypa switches to his magnets to decimate this cat enemy. That mini boss has 10 health. Having to buster that down is actually quite difficult. Also, using the magnets to destroy it the way he did, not that easy. Magnets have a very particular way with which they choose targets. Hypa slipping off of the top. So he is going to fall to the bottom. That is death for him. Gets set back quite a ways here. Does not have the magnets to deal with this cat a second time, but he is really good at mashing that Buster, so he actually deals with that cat enemy very quickly. Oh, to do a laser for Anthole. Just missing its target on that second go-around. He doesn't want to stay close because he's worried about his health, but he really needs to if he wants to make those lasers consistent. Does eventually get him down. As Hypa clears the top jumps this time. Oh, we've got the appropriate emote ready. Thanks so much to Feasel and other tournament organizers. Chelny Cab, and of course Enemy. For getting those emotes going on the channel. Those are good fun. So Hypa is done with Top Man, gives him the hard knuckles, point blank. And Anthole is done with Needle Man. Moving on to Magnet. This is kind of interesting. I can see Anthole sort of adjusting his strategies as he goes. With the Proto Man fight, depending on how well it goes, he seems to either wait on the left side of the screen to finish Proto Man off from there and be ready when the stage opens up, or he'll follow him if he feels he needs the increased damage and then slide back over to the left. Yeah, it's the Franker Faces plugin. I don't know if BTTV will also work. They seem to be treading on each other's toes as of late. Better Twitch TV is dipping into custom emotes, and Franker Faces is dealing with other add-ons and features other than emoticons. They seem to work together okay, though, so you can go ahead and just grab both if you want. But back to Mega Man Anthole, approaching the boss fight in Magnet Man stage, has the Shadow Blades out, so he's able to just kill that annoying spring turret enemy thing. And moves into the boss fight. Has a bit of health, so he is going to opt to cancel out Magnet Man's invulnerability shield. And he does not get punished for it, because Magnet Man is down very, very quickly, and Anthole, of course, is alive. We'll see how Snake goes for Hypa. Only missing one shot there. Not quite getting to the middle of the screen either. That's another small optimization you want to do if you can, because here you'll see Mega Man has to walk to the middle of the screen and then jump up. So if you can end the fight already there, you can save yourself a bit of time in that cutscene. With Magnet Man's weapon in hand, Anthole is going to be moving on to Hardman. He gets all the Bs. Triple Bs for him, multiplied by 5 Bs each, is 15 sprites lagging your game, preventing you from sliding and taking away your health. It's a bad scene. He's through it. He's going to move on. As Hypa has another Proto Man fight in Shadow Man stage here. He's looking really good with his mash, getting Proto Man down on one go across the screen. Definitely has an advantage over Anthole in that regard. Anthole baiting that monkey down and trying to get on Rush Coil in time, doesn't quite get it. Trying to Rush Coil over the Dozer. That's because Met Dozers suck. Plain and simple, their hitboxes are mysterious and strange. As Hypa makes short work of that incredibly dangerous section in Shadow Man stage, the magnets, of course, let you kill those parachute enemies, but still you need to be on your game with your slides, your jumps, your attacks, and you need to watch out for the drops that will end you if you get one in the wrong situation, jumping over those pits. But he avoids all of that, heads into the Shadow Man fight, and gets a clean top spin kill. So Shadow is down, and he is moving straight to Mega Man 4. Starting with Pharaoh Man. This is the slightly faster, slightly riskier strat of this game. You have to be comfortable mashing these scorpions and dodging these dragonflies to do this section without Flash Stopper. You also need to be comfortable jumping over that gap, and he is. He clears it, as Anthole deals with Hardman, still has plenty of life left. Very common to end the Hardman fight very low on health. There's usually a damage boost involved. And even if you do not touch Hardman's body, it's very hard to avoid his projectiles. So Anthole is going to be moving the snake, doing a good job of keeping pace with Hypa after the Shadow Man incident. Not letting him get more than 2 Robot Masters ahead of him. Hypa has the balloon, his reward for clearing that gap in Pharaoh Man. And is now making his way through the second half of the stage. Anthole does not want to take any more damage than he already has, so he does his best to avoid those projectiles from that giant snake enemy, and he does so. So he's going to be moving on through Snake Man stage. Hypa has a Pharaoh Man fight here. He is really far away from Pharaoh Man. That is manipulating these really aggressive jumps. That's not what you want to see from Pharaoh Man. You want to stay very close and manipulate him into doing this charge shot. If you are right next to him when he does it, the odds are actually quite high that he will just stand there and keep charging. And you can rather simply jump over each one of them. So eventually wrangling Pharaoh Man into something resembling a safe pattern. Hypa gets the kill and is going to be moving on probably to Brightman stage. As Anthole is dealing with these Pogo enemies. Nope, you do not want to jump. Oh, he was trying to get Rush Jet going, I guess. You want to slide to stay ahead of them because they do damage, obviously, and he was low on health, but also they lag the game quite a bit while they're walking around down there. Not comfortable using Rush Jet to ascend through that screen. Wants to save his Rush Jet ammunition for this screen, but you can preserve it quite a bit by jumping off the top of the screen like this. Rush Jet's ammo only depletes while you're riding it. Not to mention jumping off the screen removes Mega Man's sprite for a while and frees up some space for lag reduction. Hypa is making his way through Brightman stage, as Anthole's looking to not die to Snake Man. I think he should be okay, just one last shot. Once Snake Man is on the other side of the screen, there's very little he can do to actually hit you. Anthole was actually quite safe there, despite the incredibly low life. One Robot Master left for Anthole and Mega Man 3. He's going to be heading to Spark Man, not Spider-Man. That's a very different kind of man. I hear he does whatever a spider can. Indeed, he's got Sparkman. Sparkman shoots sparks, I guess. Also, not a man. He's a robot. Coming into Brightman is Hypa. He's charging up his Pharaoh Shot. Pausing there to hit him once with the base weapon to desync Brightman's HP values, basically. Brightman will use his Flash Stopper ability when his HP hits 16, 8, and 4, and hitting him once with an uncharged shot, and then only charged shots thereafter will ensure you do not hit those values. Also, you saw him sneaking back and forth to try to maneuver that charged projectile above his head into Brightman's hitbox, because if you hit him while it is above him, you deal the damage, but you also still maintain the projectile that you can shoot out, so you can make it count for double. He did manage to do that at once, I believe, but he was taking a lot of damage, could not take any more hits, so he played it a little safer for the second half of the fight, and he gets Brightman down. A death there would have been fairly costly, as he would have been low on Pharaohman's energy, but he avoids that bad situation and moves on to Ringman stage. He's using the balloons here that he got from Pharaohman stage, executing on the wall jump there, which is not a wall jump. You're jumping off of the balloon as it despawns, and it despawns instantly by putting it inside the wall. Although perhaps instantly not the right word. You do have about a 10-frame window to get on that thing and jump off of it. So Hypa having a very clean vertical climb section in Ringman stage, as Anthole has a very clean Sparkman fight, wraps things up there, and is trying to find his ROM for Mega Man 4. Where did I save it? Is this the one? What is this pop-up? What file am I choosing? Okay. So maintaining this 2 Robot Master gap between these two players, Anthole moves on. He's going to be starting with Bright. This is, well, I don't know. They've been taking some really risky routes so far, so I wouldn't have been too surprised at this point to see him also start with Pharaoh. But he is going to be starting with Bright. Loses about 3 seconds over optimal strats, but it's a heck of a lot safer to do Pharaohman stage with Flash Stopper than it is to do Brightman stage with Pharaohman's weapon. Hypa is quite low on life after all the damage boosts in Ringman stage. There's a lot of mini-bosses, and you can eat some health to skip them, but it means you go into this fight with very low health. We'll see what he can get done here. Ringman always follows the same pattern, and Hypa knows he can take a hit from the ring safely, so he just eats that shot, charges up his Pharaohman weapon, finishes off Ringman with a pair of double hits from Pharaoh Shot. A wonderful fight from him. Absolutely knew everything he needed to deal with that situation and put it to great use. I think it was only Mega Man 2 where these players have chosen the same route. They have deviated in 1, 3, and now 4. Once Anthole is done with Bright and then Pharaoh, I think we'll probably have seen the last of deviation. Mega Man's 5 route is fairly locked up tight due to the power of the Super Arrow being available in only one stage and being a highly desirable item. In Mega Man 6, there's sort of 2 routes, but one of them is much more popular than the other. But we'll see when we get there. Hypa is in the very dangerous Dustman stage. This Crusher section, as you can imagine, is a good way to get crushed. And it's because of this very next section coming up right here, clearing this section, because you do not have a safe space to hide without retreating quite a bit ways back. It's pretty tricky, but Hypa gets through no problem. As Anthole is dealing with Brightman, he's already shot him once with the lemon, and now he's going with the charge shots. A wonderful fight from him, finishing at full health. As Hypa slides into Dustman stage. And of course, by that I mean Dustman's boss room. He's got a fair bit of health, so he can slide into Dustman to cancel this vacuum attack he just did. He's going to opt to do it twice. That's going to eat up a ton of damage. He cannot get hit again, and he gets hit again. Dustman's fight is very tricky. The optimal strat has you taking quite a bit of damage if he gives you those vacuum attacks. And it's really hard to jump over his attacks. I mean, you just stay still and jump straight up. But the window you have to do it is not very generous. And also, because of the limited range of Ringman's weapon, you find yourself in a situation where you want to close some distance between you and Dustman. And that means you move forward, and that means you need to be very careful if you have to jump over one of his projectiles. Gets Dustman down on the second go with a very good fight, as Anthole misses the jump over Pharaoh Man's gap, not going to be grabbing the balloon. This is normally a disaster if you're running the whole game, but for 46 Robot Masters, the balloon is only really going to help you out a little bit in Skullman stage and a little bit in Ringman stage. So it turns out it's only a couple of seconds lost if you do not get that balloon. Oh, Anthole, you do not want to flash on this section. These platforms are enemies. They will freeze, and you will be stuck waiting for them to unfreeze. I didn't see if Hypa got the zip in Skullman stage. It is not as impressive as the Mega Man 2 zips. It is the miniest of mini zips. But if you've got the balloon and you're comfortable with it, there's no reason not to go for it. Hypa moving really well on these balloons. Very comfortable placing them inside walls and jumping off of that despawning sprite. Hypa is pretty low on life though, using Flash Stopper very well in Skullman's stage here, and sliding. His slides are very good, and by chaining his slides together, he prevents the Flash Stopper timer from ticking down. You get 5 seconds, which is actually kind of a lot of seconds already, but that 5 seconds does not tick down at all while you are sliding. So if you're chaining your slides together with only a couple frames in between them, then you've pretty much can make Flash Stopper last for as long as you need it to. And that makes it quite powerful in this game. Skullman fight, very low on life here, but Skullman also very predictable. Hypa able to just stay in his face and smash these clusters of dust right in there. Cracks that skull, gets him down and warps out of the room, as Anthole also finishes up Pharaoh Man. Looked like he did a pretty good job of manipulating charge shots from him. I did see Pharaoh Man move around the stage a little bit in my peripheral vision, but I also saw an awful lot of charge shots. So Hype was moving into dive. He's got the Flash Stopper out, and Anthole's moving into ring. He does not have the balloon, so I highly recommend pulling out Flash Stopper for these turrets. But he's gonna buster it. Seems like he's really mostly familiar with the balloon strats. You can see waiting for these turrets here. This is the reason why Flash Stopper is pretty good. Hypa knows Flash Stopper is pretty good, using it a whole bunch in Dive Man stage. There is a lot of enemies that move around in these underwater sections. Freezing them in advantageous positions is a pretty good move. Getting a little desynced from where he wants to be with the water and the enemies, so he has to pause a little bit, but pretty nice improvisation from him. Also, his mashing has been on point, so he has been dealing with these whale mini-bosses very nicely. Pulling out the Skullman weapon and using it to absorb a couple hits there, which might have meant that he would be in a bit of a crunch for the boss, but he got a weapon refill, so he's going to be a-okay. We'll see if Anthole can master this section on Ringman stage. If you are not sliding off of these blocks onto these coiled springs, then as you can see, you do not cross them in time to avoid the platform disappearing from underneath you. And that means waiting quite a bit So definitely not the fastest way that could have gone, but at the end of the day, Anthole is alive. That is pretty important. Dive Man is now down for Hypa, who had a very clean fight, manipulating the short drills from Dive Man and hitting him with the skull weapon as he moves into the diving drill man. We'll talk a little bit about his tendency to dive. As we get to that boss fight, is Anthole coming into a very close situation there with Ringman. Pretty sure Ringman was just about to fire. Anthole fires first. Han Solo that he is gives him the Pharaoh shot and comes out of that fight alive and well. As Hypa is using Flash Stopper to slide through Drillman stage. His ability to chain slides is serving him really well with regards to this Flash Stopper. His ability to mash also taking care of these enemies. Looking like the much stronger Mega Man 4 player here. Anthole's entered the very dangerous Dustman stage. Gonna take a damage boost off that copter enemy. It looked intentional, but maybe not. Maybe he just jumped too high. These copters are very scary, and the game is lagging so much. Even though the rising blocks have a way of catching you from falling into the spikes, they also have a way of eating your jump inputs. Hype is dealing with Drillman here, who is diving into the ground over and over. I believe that is the third dive. There's another one. He is executing well on this fight. He is somewhat close to Drillman when he dives, which is the best thing you can do to manipulate him to not dive again. And he's also hitting him twice per dive, which is the most you can do. Just getting unlucky there with his Drillman fight. He does eventually, of course, get him down. It's only a matter of time. Also, I think I've forgotten to mark off Dust for him, who has been down for quite a while. He is on his last Robot Master, which is Toadman. As we can see, he's increased his lead by quite a bit here. Anthole choosing to take a hit to cancel the vacuum attack. Is he going to do it again? No. Yes, he is. He is down to 2 health. He cannot get hit again. Tense moment. He wants some jumps here. He does not want to have to jump over the projectiles. Doesn't even get one out. Anthole keeping him in iframes and gets him down, finishing the fight with 2 health left. As Hypa slides through Toadman stage. Pretty tricky stage. You want to be sliding as much as possible, which is different from your walking speed, which is normally the same as your jumping speed, but not in Toadman stage because rain pushes you back. Oh, and your walking speed, that's going to be different if you're on one of these waterfalls, which will push you in one direction or the other. The constant push and pull of Mega Man in his various different states that he can be in, walking, sliding, jumping, means that you really need to be prepared. For every single part of the stage, or you can find yourself falling into a pit very easily. But Hypa navigates all of it, partly due to his very smart use of Flash Stopper and chaining slides to freeze all those annoying enemies in place. Does not have to worry about them unfreezing in an undesirable place, because he's giving himself so much time on his Flash Stopper with the slides. So Toadman is down. Starman up next. Hypa is going to be the first to move on to Mega Man 5. And he is almost a whole 4 robot masters ahead at this point. He seems to be more familiar with these later Mega Mans, these sliding Mega Mans. Moving very well through Starman stage here. Not jumping into the spikes. We've seen a lot of players end up in those spikes throughout the course of the tournament. And I'm sure there will be more to come. Opting to throw in a bit of a jump to go over that turret rather than just walk off, take the hit, and not have to worry about possibly killing himself on the spikes. So yes, still moving very well through Starman stages. Anthole approaches the Skullman fight. Very manipulatable. The only random element is how long he has his Skull Shield out for, which in this case was actually very short, so a very good Skullman fight from Anthole. As Hypa moves into Starman's fight. Doesn't quite hit him with that first buster. It's possible to stick your shots in between his shield. Well, you're not really shooting in between it. You're kind of shooting through to the other side of it. And Hypa making use of that technique a couple times there at the end of the fight to wrap it up. Anthole is going back to Skullman. I guarantee you this is not the strategy he wanted to employ. It seems silly, but honestly, menuing in between Robot Masters and choosing the right stage very quickly is kind of hard. You either waste time waiting for the visual information of looking at the menu and being sure that this is the one you need to go to and then you select it, or you rely on muscle memory and also just physical memory of where you need to be on the menu. Look at all these extra lives Anthole has to eat through here. His solid play is now coming back to bite him. This is pretty annoying for him, I'm sure. Finally gets the game over. Selecting the correct stage here. Noticed he hesitated a little bit on that menu to make sure. Can't blame him after that. But those hesitations add up. You need to select 46 stages in this tournament, each race, and hesitating for a second on each one is 46 seconds you just lost. So you can understand why players try to navigate those menus as fast as they can, and why you sometimes end up in those embarrassing situations. Gravity Man is down for Hypa. Also, Starman. A death for Anthole in Dive Man stage. Luckily, he's got plenty of extra lives after that game over, refilling them. Though he does have quite a bit less than he did before entering Skullman stage for the second time, having stocked up on quite a few of them. See if he can get it done on his second go. As Hypa's moving into Gyro Man stage, using the super arrow. This is the wonderful weapon I was talking about much earlier. The reason we go to Starman stage is to get this thing and abuse the heck out of it. Able to place multiple of them at once to climb vertically very quickly, and able to ride them horizontally across long screens very quickly. Not to mention, they're still a weapon. They will do damage to things. They will kill enemies. Very fantastic weapon overall for speedrunners. Wow, this Stomper enemy camping Hypa on the ladder. There he goes. Able to get away from him. But he lost half his life. Thankfully, life doesn't matter too much in the Gyro Man fight. So we'll see how that goes as Anthole jumps over the gap after dealing with the whale. And we got ourselves a good old-fashioned raid from TMR, the Mexican runner, who has put 3,000 hours into completing the entire NES library. He is over 80% of the way there. And still going strong. Welcome. I assure you, there is no Mames here, only Mega Man. Hope you guys enjoy the Mega Man 46 Robot Masters Tournament. It is Mega Man's 1 through 6, back to back. Of course, you do not have to beat the game. You just have to take out the initial 8 Robot Masters, or 6 Robot Masters in the case of the first Mega Man game. And then you're free to move on to the next game. Anthole is finishing up Dive Man in Mega Man 4, as his opponent Hypa finishes off Gyro Man in Mega Man 5. You can see Hypa's earned himself quite a bit of a lead here. Thanks to his, thanks to horrible things happening to Anthole in Mega Man 3, and just very, very solid play through Mega Man's 4 and now 5. Hypa seems much more comfortable with the later games, controlling Mega Man's slides and charges, and now controlling his height of those super arrows perfectly to position himself for the crystal warp. As you can see, it looks like a whole lot of nothing is happening on his screen, and that's partially true. I want to direct your attention to the enemy on the right side of the screen. Notice it is missing the ball enemy on top of it. That is because he manipulated things such that Mega Man died on the exact same frame that enemy spawned. And so, instead of placing that enemy on screen, the game sees that all the sprites are filled with Mega Man's death explosion sprites, and says, well, I need to put this enemy somewhere, I'll put it over here. And where over here happens to be the value for where Mega Man is in the stage, and it also happens to be the value of how long it takes Mega Man to respawn. So it puts those values in there, and after a 40-second respawn, Mega Man ends up right in front of the boss room. It is just a happy coincidence that things work out that way. So Hypa executes on that trick and the following boss fight to get Crystal Man down. That is a nice job from him, as Anthole is dealing with Drill Man. Sliding through this scary section, making sure to hit those switches to spawn the next set of platforms. Hesitating in the menu a little bit, is opting to use the E-Tank here. Drill Man's fight can get pretty messy, especially if you're trying to stay close to manipulate him not to use his dive attack. So he does not want to have to worry about managing his health on top of that. Getting an instant dive from Drill Man, you do not want this. As you can see, it wastes a whole lot of time. But all you can do is stay close to him and hope he doesn't do it. Anthole getting a second dive. Finally getting some other pattern. Not before getting a third dive. As Hypa slips off of a waterfall in Napalm Man's stage. That's going to be his first death. Still has probably a couple more lives thanks to the generous drop rate of extra lives in Mega Man 5. But we can't know for sure until he opens his menu. Anthole finishing off Drill Man. And look at his health. Isn't he glad he used that E-Tank? All right, into this waterfall section again as Hypa manages to stay on the platform. Ooh, a nice transition to that top super arrow there. Eddie gives him an E-Tank and he says, don't need it. We're looking at a stage select screen there from Anthole. He is going to be moving on to Toadman. As Hypa's making his way towards the Napalm Man room. These last few drill enemies are pretty scary. Thankfully, the slides make it a lot more simple to land on those pillars. You don't want to miss with Crystal Man's weapon, very similar to the Gemini laser. You're stuck watching projectiles bounce around the screen for a while instead of being able to shoot more at the boss. Very solid Napalm Man fight from him. Has the health to take the damage boosts when he needs it, and gets him down. Anthole damage boosting through the mini bosses here in Toadman stage. You can't see it, but it's a snail, but he's freezing it before it spawns. Still gets hit by the hitbox there. Gets hit by the hitbox twice, actually. You can get through there only getting hit once. Even though the sprite is still frozen in its teleport animation, the hitbox for that enemy is still there and waiting. But you can walk through it. So you can skip that enemy, and it is faster than trying to mash that snail down. Anthole going into Toadman's fight low on health, but this is no problem. When even moderately executed well, Toadman never gets a chance to fire. Anthole missing his opening shot, but this should be no problem. As you can see, Toadman doing a whole lot of nothing. So Anthole is playing on emulator, navigating to Mega Man 5. There are no rules in the tournament with regards to playing on emulator versus console and whether or not you use an EverDrive or you use the regular carts. And there's also no rules which limit your ability to switch games. So some people actually do have a bit of an advantage with their ability to switch to the next game very, very quickly. We saw someone actually have a disadvantage because they were playing on the regular cart, and the connectors did not line up, so he fired up Mega Man 3, and Mega Man's face was replaced by a bunch of numbers, and he said, that's not good, so we had to reset a couple times before that worked out for him. So Anthole's going to Starman. This is definitely the way you want to go, because beating Starman gets you this super arrow that Hypa has been putting to great use through the back half of Mega Man 5. And now he's got a Stone Man fight here. He should be able to do this even with his low health situation. Just needs to be careful. Great fight from him. Anthole also in a very bad health situation, making sure not to jump for that ladder, right? Dodging the shrapnel from the missiles. But he has to play it really safe here, getting a small health drop that is actually doubling his total health count. And he's going to take his time to mash down this enemy from afar. And there's a health refill waiting for him. He gets it. He's really glad that's there. As Hypa moves into Charge Man stage. He's got the super arrows out. And he gets to the ladder with just enough super arrows to place it right here. And this lets him zoom through this section of the screen. Has to slide under those enemies, but makes it work. Nice job from him. As Anthole approaches the Starman fight, it's pretty common to take a hit or two in this fight because you're trying to be very aggressive and that involves staying next to the hitbox of this gigantic star shield. Anthole does not have the health to take those hits, though, so he is going to be backing off a little bit. But he is being careful to stay close to Starman when he is not attacking, because that will manipulate him to use his attacks more often. Dealing with that tough situation very well, Anthole gets Starman down. He's going to be moving on. Hypa bustering down some of these enemies in the second half of Charge Man stage. He's really good at mashing with that Buster. Takes care of that big guy guarding the door very quickly. And we'll see what kind of Charge Man fight he can get going here. Charge Man is weak to this Power Stone weapon, and this is a horrible weapon to try to hit bosses with, as you can see. He's whiffing some shots, and even when he connects, he's forced to pause to clear those projectiles off screen, because you cannot shoot again while they are on screen. And all of those pauses make that fight very, very slow. It is possible to be very clever with your movement that manipulates the boss, and you can actually hit him multiple times with each Power Stone usage and avoid those pauses, but it is an incredibly tricky procedure. I've only really seen it executed once in the tournament so far by world record holder for Mega Man 5, Baron Haynes. I believe he's still the record holder for that game. But he does get Charge Man down. Moving on to Wave Man, final robot master of Mega Man 5. As Anthole is dealing with the gravity mechanics and Gravity Man stage. The reward for beating Charge Man is this Charge Kick, which lets you slide through some of the hazards here in Dive Man stage. Hypa trying to use his super arrows for the bubble skip here in Wave Man stage. Very tricky procedure. Goes ahead and wastes some super arrows on the side there. I can only assume that's because he's trying to simulate the situation you end up in. Nice, getting the boat skip. Should he actually complete the bubble skip, he would have used some of those arrows that way. Anthole defeating Gravity Man. Scripted fight, do the same thing, you'll get the same results every time. But back to Hypa, perhaps he's just messing around. He has the extra ammo for the super arrows, might as well just shoot him while he's waiting. Anyway, he executed on this boat skip by riding the super arrows, sliding over them, and jumping off screen. You're supposed to get in that boat and have a little auto-scroller section here, but by cleverly sliding on top of a super arrow chain, you can avoid that cutscene and save yourself a second. But only a second, and you can soft lock the game if you screw it up. If you initiate the cutscene of Mega Man jumping into the boat, while the boat is not in front of Mega Man, he tries to jump into a boat that does not exist forever. Is it worth risking potential soft lock to save 1 second? That's the question a lot of players have to ask themselves. Even if the trick is relatively easy to execute and relatively easy to abort from if you screw it up, we have seen a pretty good mix of people who go for it and those who don't. Hypa goes for it, and he gets it, so he is going to have that 1 second. Not that he needs it. His lead is quite a bit more than 1 second. It can be measured in minutes easily at this point. As he finishes off Wave Man handily, almost keeping him in iframes the whole time. And moving on to our finale, Mega Man 6. with a whopping 6 Robot Master lead over his opponent, who is in a bit of a scary situation in Gyro Man stage, dodging those enemies, but making it work as anthole. And sees into this miniature auto-scroller with these spikes. I have not seen anyone die to these spikes yet in the tournament. The stage moves slowly enough that you've got plenty of window to time your jumps, to not crash into them, and anthole is no exception. Hype has opted for Wind first in Mega Man 6. This is the most popular route. Even when you've got a full array of weapons, you generally only use Buster for Windman stage. Opening the menu in Mega Man 6 takes quite a while, so whatever you switch to in your menu needs to save you at least as much time as it takes to open and close that menu twice. Turns out that's very rarely the case with your ability to charge your Buster shots. So you do see quite a bit of the Buster. And it makes Windman stage a good starting point because his weapon is the weakness of Flame Man, and Flame Man is the weapon you want for much of the game. With Gyro Man down for anthole, he's going to be moving on to Crystal Man. Now, at this point, I want to point out we saw anthole practicing the Crystal Warp before the race started, and I gotta say, he was not looking too good. I think he attempted it about 10 times, and I don't think I saw him get it once. But he is going for it. Windman down for Hypa. Looked like a pretty solid fight. Alright, here we go. Needs to place his arrows. Nope, that is not right. Basically, to get the perfect height on the arrow, you need to be standing on the ground when you launch the first arrow. You need to be standing on the first arrow when you launch the second, and the same for the second to launch the third. That gets you exactly the height you need. Anthole slipped off of the second arrow, so he just kind of jumped and YOLO tried to place the third in the right spot, and it is worth noting that he was actually really, really close to placing it in the right spot, but it was just a little bit too low. And so instead of a glorious warp to the end of the stage, he instead dies and now is electing to actually play the stage. Also worth noting, Crystal Man stage is pretty tricky. If executed flawlessly, the Crystal Warp will only save you in the neighborhood of 10 seconds. But for so many of our competitors, as well as those who are used to simply skipping the stage, you are not going to be executing the stage anywhere near flawlessly, and that Crystal Warp is looking to save you more like 40 or 50 seconds. So it's a pretty big deal that anthole missed it here. Hypa in Flame Man stage, taking a lower route there to pick up that E-Tank. These flame enemies are random when they choose to attack. Ooh, falling into the oil there, that could have been bad. Thankfully, the fire enemies decided not to light that oil on fire, and when they did, he had the iframes he needed to just slide on top of it. They do become instant death once those oil fields are lit. Is it realistic for anthole to catch up? Hypa, his opponent, types in chat, yes. Yes, it is. But that is, I think, the typical modesty you will see of the speedrunner. To be perfectly honest, as a commentator, it's going to take some kind of incredible disaster for that to happen. Hypa has been playing very solidly, very consistently, ever since Mega Man 2. He's showing no signs of slowing down. Anthole dealing with the Crystal Man fight here. Having a bit of trouble manipulating Gyro Man's weapon to hit him, but eventually does get him down. Likewise, Flame is down for Hypa. Moving on to Blizzard Man stage. This is one of the stages I saw Hypa practicing before the race started. We'll see if it pays off. Or maybe he's practicing it because it's something he's identified as a blind spot. Kind of thing where he could need to use the practice. We'll see. It's taking a couple extra hits from some of these bacon shield enemies as he approaches this underground submarine section. We'll see if he can get slippery. Get in the kitchen and make himself some butter. Not quite. Make himself some butter? Who makes butter? No one, anyway. For those not in the know, executing on the cycle skip of those spikes on the ceiling by going very fast is called butter, probably because you need to be really smooth with your slides. Hypa was pretty close there to getting it, but not quite. Identified he had lost too much time and did not go for it. Played it safe, waiting in between the spikes. And moving on to the Blizzard Man fight. He's really low on life here, and dodging some of these patterns from Blizzard Man is a pain, and there it is. Getting clipped by that lower snowflake twice. That is a death for him, but it is not a terribly costly death. And also very important that it is not a game over. He can afford many such deaths with this gigantic lead he's earned for himself. Getting a couple of charges there, Blizzard Man invincible while he does that snowball attack. Not much you can do to prevent him from doing it. Execution-wise, fairly solid for Hypa in that Blizzard Man fight. He's going to be moving on to his fourth Robot Master of Mega Man 6 as Anthole is gravitying away his troubles. Approaching Napalm Man in Mega Man 5. He's trying to spawn some of these missiles to gravity them away, but they don't want to come. And now he's out of gravity, and now he's into the pit. He was right in front of the boss door, so this is a very costly death for him. And a very frustrating death as well. That was a series of things that kind of conspired against him there, and it all spun out of the incredibly small mistake of being a pixel or two too short to spawn that missile enemy. He was trying to get it to spawn so that he could gravity it away, and then once it was gravitated away, he could continue from there. But when it didn't spawn, his reaction was not there, opting to kind of jump in place, wasting his gravity, and then when he had no gravity, he was in an even worse situation, couldn't deal with that, and ended up dying. So to have a really small mistake turn into such a costly death, very frustrating for him. But possibly not as frustrating as having to do the section of Plant Man stage that Hypa is doing right now. He's going to switch to the Buster to open up these platforms, because trying to jump off of them while they are closed is an incredibly risky maneuver. You have between 2 and 4 frames of landing on it to jump off of it again. Napalm Man killing Anthole. Thankfully, he still has another life. And I think he's got enough crystal to get this fight done. As Hypa is going to be dealing with Plant Man. Ideally, you want to get inside Plant Man's hitbox at certain times to manipulate his AI. Basically, the AI for Plant Man. Knows what it wants to do if Mega Man is to the left of him and if Mega Man is to the right of him. But if Mega Man is neither, it doesn't really know what to do. So if you can get right inside him, when that decision time comes, you can throw off his AI and give yourself a much easier fight. You also want to be using your weapons facing away from him because Blizzard Man's weapon spawns from behind you and travels pretty slowly, so if you can, you don't want to have to shoot it forwards at him. So all in all, it makes for a fight where you need to stay very close to an enemy that likes to move around and cover himself with a shield. Fairly tricky, but overall Hype is doing a good job executing on that fight, as Anthole also gets Napalm Man down second time around. And with that Napalm weapon in hand, he is going to be moving on to Stone Man's weapon, Stone Man's stage, which happens to look quite similar to Tomahawk Man's stage, actually. These players are almost an entire game apart at this point, so do not be misled. Flame Man's weapon, once again being put to great use in the stages. It is quite powerful, and its trajectory, while a little weird, can often be helpful. And it has a whole bunch of ammo too, so you're free to use it through pretty much entire stages. Tomahawk Man stage, no exception. Hype comes to the end of it. He's looking fairly good health-wise. Tomahawk Man, a boss that is capable of dealing a lot of damage to you very quickly. Just barely clearing those spikes. In Mega Man 2, pausing like that will reset your vertical momentum. But in some Mega Man games, the opposite effect is true. So I actually was not quite sure if Hypa was going to clear that gap after he paused there, but he did. Moving into the Tomahawk Man fight, you have just enough ammo to kill him with this plant weapon. And you make sure not to waste any of it, getting Tomahawk Man down, finishing with fairly low life there. Anthole struggling with Mega Man 6 Rush Coil, trying to get this E-Tank. Or no, just trying to get on that platform, it looks like. There he goes. Is rewarded with an extra life from Eddie. He's been moving fairly slow through Stone Man's stage here. In general, I think Mega Man 6 is probably Anthole's weakest game. In terms of overall stage familiarity, and perhaps even movement familiarity. Despite the rather massive lead between these two players at the moment, once upon a time, back in Mega Man 2, these players were neck and neck. Anthole even had a lead. Hypa, I was about to say, is looking really strong here in Mega Man 6, is dying. Actually, he died right at the checkpoint there, so I wouldn't be too surprised if that was actually an intentional death. As for the question in chat as to who put the scoreboard together, I wish I knew. I definitely want to give credit to someone, because it is a rather wonderful thing that they have put together. The person who would know is Enemy TV, head organizer of the tournament. So maybe you can track him down and ask him. I'll be sure to ask him at some point. Chelny made it. Thanks, Baronhades. Chelny another organizer of the tournament, and another well-known Mega Man runner, expert of Mega Man 4, fellow commentator, and also competitor. Hypa taking a moment out of his run to answer the question in chat. Nice guy. As Hypa is done with Yamato Man, he's going to be moving on to the 45th Robot Master, Nightman, as anthole is dealing with the Chicken Room in Charge Man stage. Don't think any dedications were made public at any point. We'll have to sit and wonder. Refilling the super arrow ammo there. Pretty interesting optimization from anthole. Death from Hypa in Nightman stage. It's possible to skip this Crusher section. That's going to be a game over as well. See how he does on the Crusher section next time around. And yes, they do skip the Wily stages in this category. There are some people who run the absolutely crazy gauntlet of all 6 games in their entirety. But for this tournament, we are going to be focusing on just the Robot Masters, kind of sampling a little bit, well, kind of a large bit of each game. A death there for anthole late into the second half of Charge Man stage, where he is back to the Chicken Room now. Hoping instead of a large weapon drop, he had a large energy drop earlier on. So he's going to have to make do with this situation now. Low on super arrow ammo. As Hypa makes his way through Nightman stage, Crusher section went much better for him this time around. You can pause, and the ceiling will continue to move as the menu pulls up and fades away. And during that time, Mega Man will not die. So with simply a well-timed pause, you can avoid having to wait for that crushing ceiling. Into the bouncy section of the castle, and into Nightman's boss room. Hype is going to be pretty close to a 2-hour time here. He's really going to have to hustle if he wants to cut that too, though. Gets Nightman down with enough ammo. anthole moving into Charge Man's fight. We saw Hypa was unable to execute on the really, really fast rats, trying to get Power Stone to cooperate. With many, many pauses and many misses completely with the weapon, he finally gets Charge Man down. Very, very troublesome boss. Anthole dedicates the second chicken room to the first chicken room. Very well. I can't tell if that's him having a sense of humor about the situation he's found himself in, or if it's tinged with just a bit of salt. Hard to say. We'll see how Anthole can recover from some of his Mega Man 4 and 5 troubles. And 3 in particular, I think, was the killer. 5, honestly, hasn't been too bad for him. Napalm Man, that sucked, but otherwise, been doing okay. Death and Charge Man kind of sucks too. hopping on the bubbles in Waveman stage. I think he is a little bit ahead of Hypa in terms of his progress. No, wait, Waveman stage is very, very long. I was gonna say, maybe anthole can get to the start of Mega Man 6 before Hypa gets to the end of it. But that's maybe gonna be a tall order here, because of this long, long auto-scroller in Waveman stage. Hypa actually pulling out the boxing gloves. Shadow boxing his way through the screen transition. I'm not familiar with this strategy. Nightman's weapon tends to be the way to go. Mostly because it's very common to get hit, very common for Nightman to walk away from you, very common for Nightman to freeze you in place, preventing you from maintaining the melee distance you need to make use of this weapon. So despite the short range of Nightman's weapon, it does tend to be enough. Man, he is just punching this poor centaur, beating him senseless. And there it is. Hypa has finished in first place with a time of 2:01:22. Not quite cutting that 2-hour mark, but awfully close. And overall, some solid play. Things got off to a rocky start. Mega Man 1, Mega Man 2, especially Airman stage. But he managed to put that behind him, and Mega Man 3, 4, 5, 6, Hypa looked really strong, really comfortable with what he was doing. Avoided most major mistakes, and managing to iron out quite a few of the smaller ones as well. Just behind him, finishing Mega Man 5. It's gonna be Anthole. No salt, Anthole's having a good time. He knows perhaps he's a little outmatched in this matchup he's had to face in this tournament. So he's going to improve his personal best. I should be familiar with Anthole's personal best. I'm gonna guess... Well, it looks like he's put up a 155.34. Oh, maybe these times are swapped. I think it was probably Primal who put up the 155 and he put up the 236. What's better than 236 is something that he could be on pace for. It's gonna be tricky. He really needs to rally here late into this race and pull off a really good clean Mega Man 6, and he's off to a good start in Windman stage here. And that's right, chat pointing out that the way the tournament works, the top 2 people from each pool will advance. But your seeding will be determined by your average time in the tournament, and that means every single race you want to do your best to get the fastest time you can. Anthole having a great Windman fight here. Not having to deal with many troublesome gyro-like attacks. And also managing to throw in a lot of extra slides. You charge your Buster just a little bit faster in Mega Man 6 while sliding. So while you're waiting for iframes, you might as well try and throw in some of those slides, especially since Windman is going to be doing that vacuum attack, and you need to put some space between you and him. Sliding serves the dual purpose there. Yeah, group stage is a sort of round-robin situation, and then it moves on to a single elimination tournament after that. One of the advantages of doing things this way is with a double elimination. Well, first of all, in a single elimination tournament, a lot of people put a lot of time into learning these 6 games for this tournament, and then to have one match, get eliminated, and go home feels awful. We don't want to do that. We want to encourage new people to pick up the game and come have some fun. Double elimination, maybe you get that second match in, and maybe you meet someone of equal skill level down in the lower bracket. But this way, with the round robin tournament, you get to face. You're guaranteed to fight 3 matches. You give yourself a chance of maybe advancing, and the finals are going to be a single elimination format rather than double elimination, and each of these races is like 2 hours long. So if there was to be a bracket reset in grand finals, that means grand finals is either going to be 2 hours or 4 hours long, and that makes scheduling really tricky from a just sort of administration standpoint. So single elimination works out much more nicely that way. We have had situations where we've had to tell people, Grand Finals starts this weekend, except if the guy from Losers wins and resets the brackets, then Grand Finals will be concluded at another day that we don't know yet. Like, that's not fun. That's not exciting, so we'd like to avoid that situation. Anthole has avoided the situation of dying to Flame Man, and I have been lax in marking off some of these Robot Masters. He has defeated both Wind and Flame Man without many mistakes at all. Moving on to Blizzard Man stage. Hesitating a little bit with some of these walruses. One of Hypa's strengths was his ability to mash. One that Anthole does not share, so he has had to come up with various ways of dealing with these enemies to compensate for that. Throwing in hesitations, throwing in creative weapon switches, and the like. Going up top for an E-Tank. And he is switching to Windstorm to deal with that octopus enemy. There he goes. See ya. Octopus is out. Anthole now has Wind for this submarine section. Windman's weapon has a very similar arc to Flame Man's weapon, so it is not really going to give him an advantage there. And damage-wise, I don't think it offers any advantages. But it is still equal, it looks like, to Flame Man's weapon in this situation. except it makes dealing with these octopuses a little easier, I suppose, if you elect not to damage boost through them. It also saves on Fire Blast ammo, but that's hardly a concern. We'll see what kind of pattern he gets from Blizzard Man. Hoping for a few charges. He's getting the snowflakes that he wants to see. And there's a charge. Following it up with the second one before exploding into 8 sparkly little bits. 4 of which Mega Man collects and assimilates into the Blizzard attack, I suppose is what that is called. It's probably not bowling attack. And with that new weapon in hand, he's going to move on to Plant Man stage. Plant Man has an incredibly difficult stage. I know some players, if they could, would opt to do Mega Man 6 first in their series of games just so they could get this stage out of the way early on. It's not so bad yet, but it ramps up really quickly. You have these gorilla enemies that take 6 shots to die. And Anthole knows he's not going to be getting any one-hops to get all 6 of those shots in. So he throws in this very measured 3-jump double shot combo. And now he's dealing with these hopper enemies. We saw some of those springs. This thing shows up again. Get out of here. And now things get interesting. We've got turrets, we've got springs, we've got pits, we've got beetles, we've got fish jumping out of the pits, and now we've got floating platforms. As you can see, you can jump on them without opening them, but you also saw Anthole slipped right off of it. You only have a 2 window if you're moving, I believe, and a 4-frame window if you're standing to jump off of those platforms before you slip off. So very wisely, Anthole is going to be using his buster to open them up. But even this section here, making sure to hit the beetle with the charge shot, bouncing turret, and the almost unavoidable shot it fires. And even clearing these gaps with these springs is very tight. Whoa! By the way, you have to hold the jump button on the spring in order to get the high jump. So Anthole's slipping into the swampy water right in front of the boss door. It has not been the first time I've seen someone do that in this tournament. And it definitely won't be the last. He's really low on Flame Man's weapon here, but I think he has enough to make it work. Gets clipped by this fish. I bet he would have shot that fish if he wasn't in such an ammo crunch. He still has lives, so one more go. This is how slow these guys go when you do not have Flame Man's weapon. 24 shots with the buster. Extra 1 up for him. With the way things are going, that's not too bad to have in your back pocket. And he's got the buster out now, so he's able to go the top route on some of these platforms. waiting out some of these fish enemies. Knew that beetle was going to spawn as soon as he jumped out there. And he's through. The life refills hiding in the flowers don't help either. Pausing the game for a little bit in the middle of a treacherous jump is never a welcome thing. But he is through, he's into the Plant Man fight, and he's got a good chunk of health as well. A little too far away for that backwards blizzard shot to hit. Looks like he's trying to damage boost off of the plant shield to get inside Plant Man's hitbox to confuse his AI. Stops that strategy once he gets low on health, and executes cleanly on the rest of the fight. That is Plant Man down. Pausing for a little bit there at the start of Tomahawk Man stage. Not sure what that hesitation was for. Maybe wondering if you wanted to switch to Flame Man's weapon right away. Generally, you don't have the ammo to get through the entire stage. So some people opt to use the Buster for a little bit at the beginning. So we can see he's already quite low on flame ammo. Grabbing that extra life from Eddie, thank you very much. Getting a small weapon refill. Gonna let him keep this weapon out for just a little while longer. Hypa was pretty close to sub 2 hours. A 2:01:22. And that extra minute 22 definitely could have been saved in Airman stage alone. Things went pretty wrong for both players back then. Both players attempting fast air and failing in just about every possible way between the two of them. The 46 Robot Master World Record can be found on this leaderboard. It belongs to Fast at CC with a time of 1:42:38. But looking at the leaderboard, you can see what kind of placement a 2-hour time will net you. Top 20 is pretty solid. Some of the players play on Rockman instead of Mega Man. For some of the games, it doesn't make any difference. For Mega Man 2, it can make a big difference. Or it won't, actually. It depends. It depends on how well you can deal with the situation. Basically, what happens is, on Mega Man 2, you can choose normal difficulty, which is enemies have about half the health that they do on difficult, which is what Rock Band 2 is by default. So if you play the Japanese version, you have to deal with all that extra health on the enemies. Anthole going the other route on Yamato Man. This is a treat to see. It refers to the games. The console you play it on can vary. You can play it on emulator, you can play it on a Famicom, or you can play it on an EverDrive, which is a Nintendo cart that has a bunch of ROMs on it, and you can just load up the ROMs and play on a regular Nintendo, which is what I think most people opt to do, but some people play on emulator. Also, a lot of the Japanese flags indicate Japanese runners. Mega Man has a very, very big and very active Japanese speedrun community. One of the biggest, maybe, and definitely one of the ones where there is a lot of communication and competition between Japanese runners and the rest of the world. Some of them are kind of isolated. Not a lot of people who can sort of connect the two through the language barrier and whatnot. But Mega Man, yeah, there's been a very nice to see crossover there. Also, a lot of the Japanese runners are really good. That's why you see a lot of those Japanese flags up near the top of the leaderboard. Antole's dealing with Yamato Man there, gets him down. Was a little low on health, but he knew exactly how much he had and how much damage he could take for that fight. Probably wasn't worried in the least. But going back to Mega Man 2 versus Rock Band 2, Rock Band 2 is in Japanese, and that means you skip huge amounts of time on those weapon get cutscenes because the Japanese text is so much shorter. So despite the increased difficulty, a top player can actually save time playing Rock Man 2 over Mega Man 2 on normal difficulty. And because the two are so comparable, it's actually completely up to the runner which version they want to play on for this tournament. Anthole doesn't want to screw around with these spikes. He's going to wait for the ceiling to give him all the room he needs, only to slip into the very next set of spikes. Tried to throw in a slide there. Sliding mechanics change from Mega Man to Mega Man. I mean, for Mega Man 1 and 2, they don't exist at all. But in Mega Man 6, you cannot press A to jump out of a slide. It merely cancels it. Also in Mega Man 3, I think there's 8 frames where you cannot cancel your slide. You have to slide for at least those 8 frames. So it's not uncommon to see a player miss some kind of input due to a slide. You have to be able to switch gears in your brain to wrap your head around all the little minute changes from Mega Man to Mega Man. Anthole switching to jetpack here, avoiding some runaround in that one room. Of course, the menu to and from it is fairly slow, and now you don't have your Yamato for this section. So overall, it is a little bit slower, but it is safer in some respects. Always nice to have a jetpack should you find yourself down in the spike pit. Also lets you fly over these mad nerds. Those are really good at knocking you into those spikes there. So he's through that section and he's switching to Buster here. And now to Yamato. I thought we were going to see some insane Buster strats. But as far as I know, Yamato is better in many, if not all aspects in this fight. Along with the vastly increased damage, it also is able to penetrate Nightman's shield. And as we can see, he's able to clean up that fight very quickly. And next up, anthole has got his final Robot Master before he's free to type in the done. He's closing in on this 2-hour, 30-minute mark. That would be a nice milestone to hit. So we'll see if he can do it. Centaur Man stage has a lot of enemies that come in from above. It can be pretty hard to deal with. It's also a water stage. The Mega Man 6 Robot Masters and their stages are all sort of culturally themed. And so Centaur Man is from sort of Greek mythology, and in that mythology, centaurs are sort of associated with water. Did not know until somewhat recently. Showing no fear for that big gap jump. But is showing a bit of fear in that he is low on health and there is a refill just sitting there for the taking. Fear, perhaps not the right word to use for that situation. Some might say smart, some might say safe, careful. Damage boosting through that octopus. Not going to see any win strats on him. Sliding into the Centaur Man boss fight with a charged Buster. His health isn't perfect, but it's decent. Oh, I see. Switching after the charged Buster shot. I like it. We'll see what he can do to keep either Centaur Man or himself in iframes. Either one will stop Centaur Man from using that flash attack. One more shot. Nails it. Anthole is finished in second place with a time of 2:29.04. Slipping in 56 seconds under the 2.5-hour milestone. Congratulations to him. I'm going to go ahead and click off this final Robot Master. And as that fades out, so too will the Speed Gaming broadcast. For now. Unless something has popped up in the last minute, in which case Feezel will contact me and I'll let you know. But on the schedule, as it stands, we got nothing until 9 p.m. That's going to be 5 hours away. you're going to see some more Mega Man 46 Robot Masters. And that is going to be between Kong Cakes and Thunder Mustache. And I'm pretty sure that could be a close one. I know Kong Cakes, fairly proficient, has a 203.58 on the leaderboards. And personally, I think he's capable of cutting some time out of that. Thunder Mustache, I do not believe, is on the leaderboards. But I have seen him perform very well in other games. And he is definitely no stranger to Mega Man. So that could be a good one. Thanks for watching from... I can't identify this player by face, unfortunately. Sports, not the biggest thing. More about the video games, sitting instead of the moving. That's me. I am Mythical9. I've been your commentator for today. Your runners, once again, have been Hypa and Anthole. And this has been Speed Gaming. I hope you enjoyed it. Please come on back in 5 hours for more Mega Man. Or you can check out some of the other stuff we have going on the channel. Dragon Warrior Randomizer. Pretty big departure from some of the stuff you've seen today. That's going to be tomorrow at 5 p.m. Super Metroid Double Anti-Bingo continues at 9 p.m. tomorrow. And we saw the Metroid Fusion Finals this past weekend. So you can check the VODs for that. And there's more stuff coming up. You can check speedgaming.org/events to find out some of the other stuff we do on the channel. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope we can get some sub emotes for you guys. For the subscribers, the Twitch Prime has brought in another wave of subscribers, and we're looking into getting a proper set of emotes for you guys. If you're familiar with emotes and the making of emotes, or want to try your hand or something, you can contact us, get in touch. We would very much like that. And I think that's it. I think that's it for our wrap-up. Congrats once again to Hypa for his win. In group... I had it. In group C, that win for him is the first of the other 3 people who are not Primal. Primal has got 3 wins. He's going to be moving on. Hypa's win over Anthole is a big deal in this fight for 2nd place. So congrats to him. And I hope to see you guys back here in 5 hours for more Mega Man. Cheers.